It's the calm before the storm, in a Winterfell-centric episode that basically follows our characters in the final hours before the battle with the Night King begins. And generally consists of people drinking and hashing out their issues, so pretty good all around, actually. It's Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 2, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Hey everyone, D here, and welcome to this week's review of Game of Thrones. So yes, of course, lots of spoilers ahead, and as usual, you can use our quick jump index system anytime to jump to any part of this review you would like. Just take a look down in the description below. We'll have a nice listing of sort of breaking up this review into different sections, little time jump clips you can hit onto. Jump around, watch this review in any order, revisit your favorite parts. Just look down in the description below. Alright, so episode 2 of our final season has begun, and really not a whole lot of action going on this episode. Like I said, very centric with Winterfell. We basically took all of our characters that had our big reunions last week, and now is sort of hashing their stuff out. As it said, really sort of clearing the air, having those final moments, you know, which is good. It works out. It's nice character payoff. Not only do we have our characters together, we're sort of, like you said, hashing bits out. Arya and the Hound sort of leveling their things. Hound and Beric also at the end they're sort of hashing their stuff out. Jaime, Tyrion reconnecting. Just a lot of our interactions, a lot of sort of clearing the air. We're in the fight for survival coming up. There's really no need to sort of drag a lot of this old stuff around. And they don't waste any time in this episode also. First off, before I jump into the episode, do want to say, continuing changes with our opening sequence. Before we had the tiles representing the White Walker army, the Horde approaching Last Hearth. Here, they've already gone through there. Last Hearth is surrounded. Now we're seeing the tiles transition and move towards Winterfell, which now is a bunch of pikemen and spearmen all up in front. So I have read that they look to probably make changes for each episode. This will continue to sort of evolve, and we'll get to see and track where all the movement and the show's focus is, which I think is cool. It's the last season. Have fun with it, for sure. But just nice to see a little tracking from our opening sequence. But anyway, yeah, jumping right into the episode overall, or to be specific here, starting out with Jaime right there in front. We're not transitioning from what happened between Bran and Jaime out there, if he got grabbed or if he walked himself in. Doesn't matter. We're jumping right into this encounter with Jaime up against kind of everyone else. And definitely not the best part. Certainly not loved by everyone. Last appearance up here in Winterfell didn't go so good. And a lot of anger towards it. I mean, Dany's speech is the first thing that we are hearing. You know, I grew up on stories about the man that killed my father. So the idea of judgment coming down, of Jaime being judged on this really does, like I said, set the theme for the episode and sort of hashing things out, seeing things how they are. There's no room for posing and you know, tweaking things around. I love how Jaime points around that I would do these things again in a moment. I was defending my family and my house. There aren't apologies for these actions. These are the way that things simply were. And I appreciate the sort of straightforwardness of that. Obviously, I love Brienne coming up to defend Jaime, to see all that. And I was curious if she was going to bring up the story of the night that the Mad King died, and his desire to have his Pyromancer go and set forth all the wildfire and burn down King's Landing and kill everybody else, which is sort of what motivated Jaime to really cross that line and take his life. But instead, Jaime showing the kind of person that he is now, that he is honorable, that he did defend Brienne, and that cost him his hand, and that Sansa specifically wouldn't have been around because it was Jaime that armored her, and tasked her with finding Sansa and protecting and delivering her back to Winterfell. So, again, there's a lot of change and movement that is going on, and that's sort of what we are grasping in this, how much time has changed and how this really has affected people and changed who they are. Jaime having kind of a big movement and arc, both with him and Brienne, who's now, instead of teasing and taunting, he is respectful and appreciative and sees her for the warrior that she is, and her kind of trying to come to terms with this new person. And of course, all the lovely feelings and such that are going up inside of her. But I think also we have a lot of great dynamic between Sansa and Daenerys, and it is sort of set up in this first scene, where because Brienne vouches for Jaime, then Sansa goes, all right, well, I trust Brienne, so I will trust you. And she sort of makes that first move towards forgiveness. It's then that Dany looks to her Warden of the North, to Jon Snow, who thankfully backs up Sansa, and with a rather practical message of, we need everybody that we can have. And so Dany there then follows suit, and I think it's Dany sort of seeing how the world is moving around, also the trust of Jon, which he gets into in that big discussion with Sansa later on. But we're starting to see how, I think, the idea that Dany is being outmaneuvered, certainly her lashing out at Tyrion immediately afterwards. Yeah, I made you a hand and you're making all these mistakes. That's Dany's frustration. I mean, yes, Tyrion has messed up. He has made some errors. What does he say? I made the error that clever men often do is underestimating my enemies. The fact that Tyrion can understand that and appreciate that and learn from that, also very smart. And I love Jorah later on going and coming to Dany to sort of defend Tyrion and say, hey, this is the right person. I thought it was going to be me, but this man is a better man. He's got a smarter mind for that job. Which, appreciated again, a lot of this clearing of airs. But I think all of that Dany frustration really is seeing that she's being outmaneuvered, and in a way that she isn't expecting it. And I think that that's something that the scene with Sansa really plays out nicely. I appreciate Jorah saying, hey, go talk with Sansa, level things out. And I appreciate Dany taking that moment. I think this is a move of real leadership with her to approach Sansa and kind of try and find that middle ground. And the two of them as strong women, leaders, people that no one expected them to come up and be the ones in charge, and they are. And they're doing a great job. And yes, having some difficulties getting people to work around that. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities between these two characters. And I love that little bit, especially bonding around Jon's love. That they both love Jon. They both care for him. Dany even saying, hey, I wanted to go and invade King's Landing. I wanted to take over the Seven Kingdoms. And yet I'm up here in the north fighting Jon's war because I trust him and I loved him. And this is a great moment for the two of them really to bond. And it was going so well. It was going so well until the discussion of afterwards. And it's interesting how the idea of afterwards pops up a few times in this episode. Some people not even thinking about an afterwards, or is there one? But here that idea of, okay, we defeat, we win, do all of this, what happens? And Dany falls into her own trap. Why take the Iron Throne? And what of us? What of the North? And it's interesting how Dany, in a way, has been suckered into this idea of, or has grasped so much of this idea of being the queen of the Seven Kingdoms, of taking over the Iron Throne, that it's become an obsession with her. And I think it's changed her ruling style. And I think she's maybe seeing that difference in Sansa, because people are following Sansa because they believe in her. They trust her. And Sansa is fighting for the North. Right now, Dany is fighting for the throne. And that's different from where she came from. And when she was coming from Meereen and freeing the slaves, it was for a higher purpose. I'm here to break the wheel. I'm here to free the slaves. I'm here for put out truth. It wasn't about a right to rule there. She was earning the right to rule, but not grasping at it. And I think that's why she was beloved a little bit more and had a little bit more respect and had that all those people coming up supporting her. As she's come over to the Seven Kingdoms, now she's saying, well, I'm here, so now I got to take my throne. And it's her blinded ambition that should be the case that is causing her to trip over everyone else here in the north, because neither Jon nor Sansa nor anybody else she's running into cares. They don't care about her taking up the north. They're not worried about that. One, they're worried about the north. They're worried about fighting the army of the dead, but they don't care about ruling. It's different from the people that she has fought before who've been battling for the right to rule. Here she comes over with a bunch of people that are like, look, do whatever the hell you want. We're the North, and we're just going to take care of this. You can work with us or not, but we're not even going to play that whole thrones game. Nobody else wants the Iron Throne up here. They just want to be left alone. And I don't think Dany knows how to deal with that. And so she's grasping at this idea that I'm supposed to be king, or I'm supposed to be queen, and finding that there are threats around her that she wasn't expecting. Even when Theon shows up, it was sort of a great moment. And, you know, I'm committed to Winterfell, and Sansa connecting into there. This is someone coming to fight for love, something that people used to do for Dany. But now seeing how that emotion is pushing towards Sansa, another strong woman who's in that right to rule and in that position, I think Dany is seeing this threat start to manifest where she wasn't expecting it to. And I think this may end up being the real big conflict that pushes for bigger conflict between everyone, between the Starks, basically, and Daenerys Targaryen. So yeah, I had just mentioned how the sort of almost healed rift was resplit between Sansa and Daenerys, because there was the question of what happens afterwards, after we win all of this, what happened, you know, what's Dany's motivation, what's her plan after that. And a little different answer come up in the scene between Jaime and Bran. And I mean, I have to say, I really loved how that all sorts itself out. I love Bran's first response to Jaime in that first scene with Sansa and Dany, when they're talking about why I did things and they were for family and they were for my house and I'd do it again. And Bran throws out the things we do for love. Which, of course, is not verbatim, but almost exactly what Jaime said when he pushed Bran out the window in the first season, though that was the things I do for love. So yeah, it was sort of a perfect thing. It cut through all the bullshit, but I think it was exactly really a summation of why everybody is doing everything. It's sort of, while it was reminiscent of what Jaime had said, I think it was very clear where everybody was coming from. So kind of a two-edged statement right there. But when we did have Jaime come up, talk to Bran, apologize for what he had done, you know, Bran was the most accepting, the one that I figured would be, seeing where everybody had gone, and that Bran himself wouldn't have been the three-eyed raven if this didn't happen. But also pointing out that Jaime wouldn't have been the same person if that didn't happen. That, in fact, that act had served to start changing Jaime, to make him a very different person, the better person, I think, that he is now, specifically because of that. So again, interesting seeing how actions really affect both parties, not just one. But when Jaime asks about the afterwards, you know, and know how you feel, and what about afterwards, Bran's response is, what do you what makes you think there will be an afterwards? Is this portending Jaime's death coming up? It's sort of a perfect statement. What afterwards is it going to be? We're going to go up and you're going to die. But I think it also changes the sort of focus on stuff. I mean, in some ways, the afterwards isn't important. You got to focus on what's going now, and being distracted by the moves and counter moves and stuff that's going to happen after all of this is sort of ridiculous. So I really, really appreciated that whole scene and sequence. So the war room meeting I thought was also kind of cool. loved the table. Loved the setup of Winterfell at the beginning. You got the troops all set up, and then they just have tons of white tiles to represent the Night King's army, which very reminiscent of the opening sequence, of course. But I loved how it really just showed this giant wall coming towards Winterfell, really placing very clearly the size difference in armies and how much trouble really everyone in Winterfell is going to be. Whoever isn't with the Night King, whoever isn't here now is with the Night King's army. I believe Tormund had mentioned to Jon when they showed up. So, yeah, very, very scary. Puts things in kind of perfect perspective. And I love the thought that I love the fact that Bran gives us what the Night King is really after, that he is in fact after Bran, and it is not any kind of idea that we have thought or has been theorized out there that Bran is actually the Night King or the Night King is Bran, who had projected himself back in time and had gotten caught in the body. And that doesn't seem to be any of the case here. According to Bran, the Night King wants to take out the Three-Eyed Raven, as he has tried to take out many Three-Eyed Ravens before, because he is the memory of the people. And in order to wipe out the previous world, make an everlasting night, an everlasting winter, one thing you want to do is wipe out the memory of the previous world. A great scene there also where Sam brings up how the Citadel was described. That the reasons why they are the memories of the people in this books. Without this memory, people would become animals and fall back into their whole way. So, very kind of cool that we had brought up this idea last season about the memory of the people, and that ends up being exactly what the Night King is after. And Bran willing to be bait to sucker the Night King in. And this gives us a great bit of strategy, too, because we know that the Night King's armies is way too big for anyone in Winterfell to be able, with the numbers that they have, especially without the Lannisters or anyone else, to back them up, that they're not going to be able to go against the full force. There has to be some other way. Jon throwing out the Night King made everyone. We take out the Night King. Night King's after Bran. Bran hides over with the big tree with the face on it, and we'll try and sucker him in. Theon, of course, volunteering to protect Bran, which is perfect. He's making up for the things that he has done beforehand. I took the castle before, now let me defend it for you. So that's all really cool. That gives us sort of ideas. We got sort of an idea of the strategy we will be going forward, or at least the first idea of strategy, which, as all such things in battles do, tends to get thrown out the window after the first 5 minutes. But it's a plan at least. Now, interestingly, that scene ends with just Tyrion and Bran in the room, and Tyrion pulling up a chair to try and hear Bran's story. It's a long story. Yes, if only we weren't trapped in a castle in the middle of winter with nowhere to go. It would be unfortunate. He is a clever man. But apparently not that long of a story. Because we quickly see Tyrion right afterwards in the big hearth room with Jaime having a drink and soon to be joined by everyone. So I had to kind of laugh. I was like, I thought that might be a long story. Did Bran just not tell him? Did Tyrion just sit there for a while not hearing anything and then just sort of left back? Or did he cover it quick how much time had passed? Just thought that was kind of a funny little transitional moment. But yeah, as we have everyone waiting for these final hours, we've got a lot of our collections sorting things out, seeing how far everybody has changed. And I love how Jaime and Tyrion end up getting joined by Brienne and Podrick and then Davos and Tormund and sort of everyone sort of gathering around in the hearth room. It was nice. It was sort of gathering again. What is it that Tyrion says? That everyone in this room has at one time fought the Starks, and yet we're all here to gather in for Winterfell. It's showing how much time and transition, how much change has really has really happened since the series began, in effect. So I think it was a nice moment. But of course, all that was really bringing up to the big knighting of Brienne, which was a nice scene. It was simple, but it was so emotional because it really does show how much Brienne had wanted this thing, even though she says that she doesn't, and how much Jaime has changed from one who has used to tease her to one that now wants to fight underneath her, and in fact is willing to, as Tormund beautifully put it, tradition, to knight Brienne. Make her, she is worthy of it, and in some ways worthier of knighthood than most other knights. She really has shown that purity of purpose, which they go through about defending the weak, going for the just, all of the things that Jaime says upon knighting her about what the mother asks and the father asks the stranger. This is something that that Brienne really lives up to more than anyone, and has consistently. So it was just, that was a beautiful bit, very emotional moment. And again, just you gotta feel it for Brienne, who's being knighted by Jaime, who she is totally in love with, but in no way even capable or understanding how to express what she is feeling. It's just sort of a perfect way to set everything up, and sort of, again, complete that little story arc between the two of them. Oh yeah, I know! I haven't named the scene of the week yet, and you thought it was going to be that one. You thought it was going to be Brienne's knighting. Almost was. Like I said, very emotional, very, very cool. Big summation of a large arc right there. Great change of character. It had all of the elements. However, I'm an Arya fan. She's my favorite character, and she had the most badass bit in this episode, which is why her first little interaction with Gendry this episode is our Scene of the Week for this week, because it had everything. One, we got a little flirty Arya. Yes, it gets further later on in the episode. Standing there watching Gendry, he's making the things, and she's like, yeah. But then really falling down to it. Where's my weapon? What's this for? You fought the dead. Tell me about the dead. And just that interaction. What is it that she wants? And she doesn't want the scary stories, anything. She wants the hard down truth. What do they smell like? How do they move? How hard are they to kill? Really the warrior type questions. And when Gendry breaks down to it, it's just like, well, it's death. They are death. That is perfectly within Arya's wheelhouse. And she demonstrates it in the most subtle, badass way possible. Just picking up those dragonglass spear tips. I know death. Thakunk. It has many faces. Thakunk. I look forward to seeing this one. Thakunk. Just all of them right in the same spot. If there was a clear statement of change, I mean, even her interaction with Hound afterwards, used to talk a lot, and now you don't say anything. I guess I've changed. I mean, even that is a greater bit of change than what we have seen. That is, we are demonstrated as much as right here between Gendry and Arya, who was tough, who was sort of a little badass there, even when she was younger, but now is a cold, just blank agent of death and destruction, and he can see it. So when she asked, "You're getting my weapon?" "Yeah, I'm gonna get right back on that." It was just, it had everything right there. That was just badassery, just laid straight out. I can't say anything more than that. And of course this portends a little bit more flirtiness between her and Gendry, in which of course leads to a nice little knight experiencing wanting to know what love is before I die, if this is in fact going to be the end. First off, nice sort of double-edged spear there for her, it looked like. Thought there was going to be something that sort of separated and such from the description. And I think there might still be a little bit more that hasn't been revealed. We just saw the outer layers, but it did look like from the drawing that she had given Gendry that there was little separate parts. Is that going to break off? Can she switch off? Is it gunpowder? Shoot it across to... That might be a bit much, but you never can tell with Arya and her mastery of death. Anyway, but so yeah, that's it. Nice, the two of them, they have their moment. Interesting that afterwards, while Gendry's sleeping, Arya's still staring out in space like she's going through her listing end of things. So it might have been a nice moment for her, but man, she is all business now. Okay, our final scene. Obviously, Jon kind of giving Dany the cold shoulder throughout most of the episode, or all of the episode up until really the end. How do you have that conversation? I don't think he was finding a good way to deal with it. Makes sense. But obviously, Dany's sensing something is wrong, which leads to down in the crypt, in front of Mom's statue, with the wolf right next to it. Very perfect. Where Jon reveals to Dany his actual parentage. And I think in a very cool, straightforward way. It wasn't manipulative. It was just sort of a twist, a change. No, this didn't happen. It happened like this. And they had a kid, and that kid totally would have been killed, and that's me. Of course, Dany fighting back. Funny, that's only your brother and best friend that know these things. But I think she has to suspect, especially after writing the dragon writing duel last week, that there has to be an element of truth to it. And Jon certainly very much believes it. So what's Dany's response is, well, that leaves you the last male heir and the actual heir to the throne, the legitimate heir to the throne. That threat, you could see the moment that pops up, that pulls her away. And this is where I'm talking about, because Jon doesn't fight. I was almost expecting him to say, like, I don't care about the Iron Throne. But of course the horn is blown and they're drawn away because the army, the Night King has arrived. So it's a perfect interruption right there. But it really sets up the threat that Dany is now under. She's seeing Sansa, people being there, fighting for, believing in her, having that support of all of everyone around her, and out of love and respect, what Dany used to have, not really finding so much here that she's returned to Westeros. And now, the man that she loves, who she's up here fighting for, could end up being a threat to her rule. So is Dany gonna try and kill Jon? If he is the heir and she feels that threatening, is this going to motivate her to kill Jon, to try and kill Jon? What is going to happen during the battle? And I think that's where the answer of all this is really going to play out. Is Dany going to turn on Jon? Is there going to be betrayal right there? Does she feel betrayed because of what Jon is? He hasn't done anything outside of simply revealing information. But is she seeing that as a betrayal? Is she going to fight back after her? Or is the Night King going to take over Dany and promise her the throne to rule on it down there? Then she'd be sort of zombie-ish. So I don't really think that that's necessarily a likely one, but it's a possibility. But I think right here is where we're setting up where that split. Because Dany should rule High Valyria. She should go back across the sea, the narrow sea, and rule over in Meereen and all of that. We don't even know what's happening over there while everything is happening right here. But I think that's where she has been a good ruler. I think when she has come over to Westeros, I think the obsession with her legitimacy and thus her right to rule has overloaded her compassion and understanding. And I think this is where she's going to be threatened. And I think this is where she may lash out and we may see a final split between Dany and Jon. Just a guess on my part, but that withdrawal and fullback, all I'm thinking is Jon going to meet an untimely end on the battlefield? And is that shot going to come from behind? Or dragon above? Alright, just a couple of small things. One, can we all just admit that all of our female characters are looking badass in armor? Oh my god, Sansa's outfit is freaking awesome. Arya looks super cool. And Lady Mormont, man, even her little petite frame, she is ready for battle. She looks badass. And I actually love that scene between Jorah and Lady Mormont. He's pleading with her, you're the leader of the house. And she's like, forget that. I'm a fighter. I'm sending everybody else there. I'm going to be kicking ass. Thanks, cousin. But it's all good. That was cool. But yeah, seriously, man, just the costumes on this show are just incredible. Everybody looks so good. Oh, and speaking of Jorah, love Sam giving him his Valyrian sword because, of course, he should have had Long Claw, which is now Jon's sword. from his dad, but he didn't get that because of the whole knights thing and so on. So now, in a way, he does have another Valyrian sword, sort of symbolic of what he would have had from his father and coming from Sam. So I just think that that's cool. Again, sort of a nice full circle sort of idea. And Sam's admittance, I can't even pick it up. Think you'd do better with this. It's true. Nice shade from Grey Worm to Jaime there in the very beginning when he brings up his sword and Dany says okay, and Grey Worm brings up his sword, hands it to Dany. That eye contact was like, do not cross my Khaleesi. Pretty much, it was awesome. Oh, and also, just appreciated a little moment between Grey Worm and Missandei. Little love, little kiss, little respect, little question for what's going to happen afterwards with them. It's important to have plans, something to aim for. It always worries me when people have plans. I always think that means something bad's going to happen. I also appreciated Sansa defending Tyrion to Dany too. That he was always respectful to her, was always very smart. Sure, they both agree that they should have known better that Cersei was lying. And I even love that little back and forth. You should have known that Cersei was lying. You shouldn't have believed her too. I mean, again, Tyrion shouldn't have believed in Cersei, but Dany shouldn't have necessarily believed that either. I love the, again, constant shade. He did sort it out for like 2 seconds, but I appreciated Sansa with her little defense of Tyrion. Yes, may not be as clever as he used to be, but still, he learns, as Jorah said, but also has always been good to her. So that might be an interesting pairing later on if the married couple actually does get back together. Maybe not likely, but still interesting. Tormund and Jaime trading the stories back. You're the king killer, giant's bane. Killed a giant when I was 10, crawled up into bed, and then suckled on the mom giant's teat for 3 months. That's why I'm so big. Yeah, that's a gross story, Tormund. Especially then he's gulping down that whatever it is that he was drinking out of his flask, pouring everywhere nonstop. It just wasn't really the visual addition I wanted to that whole mental image. Podrick's gotten a lot better with his swordplay. I love that we got to see that transition. Now he's kind of like the firm, knowledgeable, understandable, showing the other troops as Brienne is watching, and Podrick's just, who used to get knocked on his butt, just, yeah, clink, okay, no, you do this, oh, no, I got you locked up here, no, it's great to see that transition. Also, loved seeing the dragon class up on the battlements. They fused the dragon glass on top, so if the White Walkers try and crawl over, they'll impale themselves, get hit by the dragon glass, wipe themselves out. Just smart. I loved seeing that. Oh, and the moment with the 3 Knights Watchmen, them getting back together. Now their watch has begun again, literally waiting for the White Walkers to arrive. Again, just a perfect full circle moment. Loved it. Alright, well I think that pretty much covers everything, all the big stuff at least. And what do we have going forward? The huge battle for Winterfell. That is next week. It is the longest episode of the season. I think it's the actual longest episode of the show, period. 11 weeks of filming. One of the largest, most impressive battles that may potentially have ever been aired on television. It's going to be amazing. And a lot of people are going to die. Who's going to die? Who do you think? Theon's gone, right? He's got to be. Jorah, I'm not so sure about that. They keep talking about the crypts this episode. Everyone's going to be safe down in the crypts. Does that make anyone else think that the crypts is going to be the first place invaded? It should be good that Sam Tarly's down there and a few of the others, and a little cute scarred-faced girl who wanted to fight because her brothers were gone, but now she's got to defend them. It was all so cute. Yeah, Davos and Gilly working together to save girls. Anyway, so yeah, really curious. I don't feel safe about the crypt is what I'm trying to say right here. I think things are going to get worse very quickly. But yeah, should be a lot of deaths. Bran certainly seemed to imply that Jaime may die here in the battle too. Does he do it saving Brienne? I don't know. I kind of like the two of them together. Tormund looks like he's gonna go. I think like half. We're gonna lose like half the cast. I would think. Probably only Jon, Sansa survived, and Arya, of course. The Starks will live. I'm pretty sure. but not so sure about most of everyone else. But we gotta wait a week. I know, it's exciting. Cannot wait. So, yeah, what do you guys think? Put those down. I want to listen to who do you guys think are going to die? Throw that down in the comments section. We'll see if we can get a little list going on. We'll place bets. We'll see how people do. Anyway, but yeah, that's going to wrap things up for us next week. Very exciting. Giant battle. Cannot wait. So, yeah, that's it. So, you know, do the likes and the comments, and you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. You hit this button to subscribe. We got this. We're wrapping up American Gods. We got Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming out next month. Don't miss any of it. And then we'll throw up a couple of our latest reviews right here for you to check out. All right, so that's going to be it for me. I'm D, and I'm out of here. Catch you guys next week. Bye-bye.